let's do our demonstration. We have John Marquardt. Fixing a funnel. You're on, John.
Okay, this is not a one-size-fits-all because they don't all go the same way when they go. Is there anyone here who has not gone through the side or the bottom of a bowl?
If there is, they're a liar.
That's right. I thought exactly. My wife is Dutch, so I've had to learn to be frugal, and I don't throw anything away. And especially if it's a pretty piece of wood, I'll look at it and see if I can fix it. The first one that I was given, Jim Blaze is gone, but was this one. This piece of beech, and to me it was too pretty to get rid of. And so to make it so I could finish it into something that was other than a funnel, this is primarily what I did. Base plate on the back, or a way to hold it in a chuck or whatever. And I trimmed the perimeter here so the bowl would sit flat. It had to be a little bit dished out. And then this is smaller obviously, but I just made chunks of wood and shaped them so that they would hold the bowl in place. And then it was relatively easy to make my bottom flat. I turned it as flat as I could, and then I would take a piece of wood with a piece of, I got a piece of Baltic birch and some sandpaper, big sheets, and I hold it on the bottom with it turning slow, so I make sure that I got a perfectly flat surface, okay? And then many times I will glue it up in the lathe. This piece is obviously too big for this, but I have the center marked on the bottom. This is chucked up. I put this up here and glue it, and then I have a bottom for it again. While it's in this position, I will then turn a tenon on this piece in back so that I can turn it around and turn in the lathe. When it's in this position, I will shape the outside as best I can. And so the bottom is essentially done. Then I turn around and hollow it. If you're using dry wood, it's relatively easy because there's not going to be a lot of instability. It's going to be fairly uniform. When it happens to green wood, like this beech was, things are a whole lot different because as you start going down through your wood, you may find that you've got little or nothing to a lot in the same elevation of it, okay? You've all experienced that. A good friend of ours in this group brought this to me in the last 8 months. I won't mention names, but his initials are Daryl. And he asked me if I would take it on and try it. And he said it's about 8 months old since he turned it. I've probably had it 6 or 7 months. I don't know how soon he gave it to me. But it was very green wood. And so it had a set of challenges that I've never had to deal with. After I did this, and I'll explain it, I thought about other ways that I could do it. So I'm just going to talk through it. Like I said, no one size fits all, but if it causes you to be creative in fixing your funnels or inside bigger than the outside, whichever it is, that's the gist of what I want to try to do. Particle board is cheap, and I basically turned it so it would fit, where are we at here? Okay, you can see it.
Yeah, it comes from all the way across.
Overhead. There we go. Okay. The bowl is an oval, but the recess or the tenon basically that I made fits the small size, and the other part is hanging past it. You can see inside a little bit. See the gap under my thumb, okay? So I had to have some way to try to hold that down while I did it. Because of the shape of the bowl, it was very hard to shim it to keep it so it was level. So what I did is I made this that would fit inside and hold it down. This runs with the grain and hold it in place. We'll see how it does. This is, pardon?
I'm just telling you, what might want to move the chair a little. Hi, Fred.
Got a shield there?
She'd be a bullfish.
Okay, this is where I'm gonna need help.
Yep.
I haven't figured out how to do this with two hands very well.
So you're saying it sort of goes together and come in here?
Yep. You turn
Okay.
that. No, we got a problem. Yeah, that's a good thing. My tool rest is hitting. Yeah. You should have seen me last night at 10 o'clock trying to do this by myself. Good, you could probably crank that up. Yeah.
Stated that warehouse and Mike is would fly on the
Guys, catch your breath. This is, we'll slow it way down. At this point, I can see gaps, and I could, if there was some way I could hold wedges in there, I would do that to help keep it stable. I'm gonna turn it on slow, just so we can figure out how much, see how much wobble is in it. Okay, here we go. There's probably a ½ inch difference in size. That's somewhat round because I did that last night, yeah. Okay? But that gave me enough so that I could start to make the bottom flat. Now, you probably can't see it, but here it goes down to paper. Here it's the 1/8 of an inch. And so it's going to be very hard to glue anything in there. So I'm probably going to have to go out to about in here to be able to get enough meat to glue to. But then the issue that comes up is how do I shape this into this to make it look like it grew there, so it grew together. And so that's why I'm at a quandary. And at this point, I'm going to give it back to Daryl, and he can figure out what to do from here on out. Okay? I think what I would do is I would make this wider till I had more meat, and then I would take something like this, turn a tenon that fits in there, make this as flat as I can. Now, I can't get my board and my sandpaper in here very well to sand it, but I'll do the best I can to make sure I have a good surface. Put a tenon on here, put it in there, glue it up, and then shape the outside to whatever seems to fit the top. I don't know if I want mold on the bottom of this. Is that going to look good? Should I put a piece of maple in? Should I put a segmented piece in between? Those are all things that you've got to think through and talk through before you go to whatever's next, okay? If this had been dry wood, it'd be less of a problem. The fact that it was green is what has caused it to move. On that bowl there, that was the same issue that I had, and by the time I got it round, I was, maybe a quarter of an inch. But if you're doing what a lot of turners do, trying to get as thin and light as they can, and get in a pickle like this, you may not have anything left, okay, with the green wood. Obviously what I did on this, I don't know if you can see it well, but I glue up a segmented ring, attached that to the bottom with some solid wood on it so that I had a center to bring this into. Once I had this round and flat, I glued this to it, turned the tenon down here, finished the outside, turned it over, and then I made a flat top, okay? And then I glued it up another segmented ring, glued it on, and then I could finish the top, the inside, and the outside. Make sense? Pretty simple. This was a whole lot simpler than this.
John,
Yes?
do you, given that you had about an inch of off-centeredness, do you know how thick that most extreme edge is? Obviously, if it's less than a half an inch.
We're in trouble.
Yeah. So can you tell, is it?
I'm going to say it's about a half a 3/8. I don't know. It's going to be pretty limited.
Yeah.
The other thing is we can glue this on. We can turn it till it meets most of this, and then hand sand that ledge where it goes from round being turned to oval being warped. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay, so it may take some hand sanding to make that fit and look right.
So your intention is not to turn the outside of that?
Of this?
Of that piece, yeah, on your left hand? Not much?
I don't think we can.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Okay.
If we can get down to here and get solid enough wood to hold this together, that's about all we can hope for. And when I get this glued on, when I reverse it, I will probably make a flat piece. This is going to be, the other way around now, to hold it in place while I do whatever truing up I have to on the outside. Okay? And then hopefully there'll be enough that he can hold it together so it can be sanded. Okay? That was this piece. Okay? Any more questions? Yes?
You're talking about the flat, having enough flat here on the
Here?
Yeah, is that correct what you're saying?
Yes.
And then having that flat from here. Now what I've done is I've gone one step further. I've created a tenon and then let it be the interior mortise.
Right, and I had said I'd probably make a tenon to fill in there that you can make it flow together, but there's hardly enough wood at this point. I've got 1/8 of an inch and I've got nothing. So that's not a good glue surface yet. If I go a little bit further, then it probably would be. Okay? Any other questions? George?
to help yourself out to begin with, when you center that up, how about taking some hot glue and gluing that right to the base plate to start with? That gives you, takes away
Right.
one hand that you have to deal with.
I think I would rather glue a wedge in there than glue,
Well, this is just to hold it,
Yeah.
so that you get rid of one of your hands.
okay, last night or this morning when I was laying in bed trying to sleep and get this off my mind, I think if I were to do this again, what I would experiment with is putting this over a set of coal jaws, shimming it where I had to, expanding it, and see what that would work. If that would work, or how it would work. Okay? Because it is thin, you know, how much pressure can you put on? By the way, I was turning a bowl this week, and it was reinforced very forcefully why we wear masks when we're doing this kind of stuff. Because I hit dead on the mask. So, yeah, don't mess around with this kind of stuff. If you're turning ornaments and little finial stuff, mask gets in the way you can't see, in my mind. But when the odds are against you, cover up. Any other questions on this or comments? Yeah, take it up. This is after the fact. We basically fixed it. We've used these, and these clips may take on different shapes to match whatever you're doing. And this is, I'm replicating a piece that a student of mine did this past year. I work in a wood shop with highly functional special ed students, and when we get ready, done with picnic tables or Adirondack chairs, I try to give them a treat and let them play on the lathe for a while. And so my 6 foot, 300 pound student went through the bottom, and I said, well, we'll try to fix it. And so this is what we ended up doing, okay? Now, to most people, they're going to think that we planned it that way, and we're not going to tell anybody anything different. But I had several other teachers that right away thought that it ought to belong to them. I still have to work on getting the right blade and the right angle to have the end. You probably want it right side up too, right? To have the right angle so I have a good fit in the state of Michigan. But I'm told in the galleries or the stores that if it's got Michigan in it, all of a sudden it's a hot item. So, okay, good point. UP's too hard to cut out, so I'm not going to take any of there. But this is, now I've got to learn how to make funnels faster so that I don't waste so much wood. Okay? This still needs a little bit of work outside. I'll pass it around if you want to.
So how did you cut the Michigan roof?
I stacked about 1/2 inch walnut on top of 1/2 inch maple. Drilled a hole at a little bit of an angle, put the scroll saw blade through it, cut it out, took the top one and it dropped down into the bottom one. And I think what happened when I cut it out is I was putting a little bit too much side pressure when I was turning, and so my blade was going through the wood like this instead of a nice straight cut, and that's why I do not have a real tight fit around that. So that's probably a blend that I'll have to sell a little bit less.
So you have a reverse of the set for the next hole? The other side?
I do have the pieces of wood that those came out of. But it would be awful hard to cut something to fit in there. But if I put a colored epoxy or something in there, yes. thank you for that thought. Yes,
If you want to see Dale Smith at Woodcraft, he's into the scroll saw, and he did a demo at our guild meeting where he was cutting on an angle, and he knows exactly, I think it's only 1 or 2 degrees difference.
it's not much.
And so that the cutout that you want to drop into the hole will do it. So talk to Dale Smith at Woodcraft.
But that's going to be determined by which blade you use too.
Yeah, he'll talk to you
Right.
about what blade he
It's good to know.
uses.
My first one fit tighter than my second one because you've got to have a blade that cuts through hardwood cleanly and doesn't burn the wood.
Yeah,
A lot of variables there. My first one was 1 degree. I had to go to 1.5 because my blade, the width of the blade was wider on the second one.
yeah. But
So I'm
Dale-
still figuring that out.
Yeah, the Dale can help you there.
Yeah, Tom?
You're saying the table,
I'm tilting my table a degree and a half.
okay, that's what I thought.
And you gotta try to drill, on this one, I should have drilled into the pilot hole in the walnut instead of into the maple. It would have been easier to hide that. I had a thought last night of drilling the start hole about where Grand Rapids is, or where I live, Nuevo, and following the river out to the shoreline, then going around and coming back. So we're trying to make something that was maybe an accident look like we planned on this the whole time, right? That's basically it. You had some good questions. I hope that the next time you go where you shouldn't with a tool, rather than throw it on the wood pile, you can think through and come up with a way of having it saved. So a couple people have brought me stuff to try to fix, and it can be done. I have used something as simple as this to hold a piece in place for further work. It's just a jam chuck. And it doesn't have to be anything exotic until you get a flat surface, and then you're good to go. So don't overthink it. Don't make it worse than what it is. But think through it.